Today on Mob Fireside Chat, we have a short profile on a member of the American Mafia by the name of Jimmy Jones Potenza. We hope you enjoy. Vincent Jimmy Jones Potenza was born in 1926 in the Little Italy section of Lower Manhattan. He lived on Broome Street and was a lifelong resident of the area. He could be found daily for years at the corner of Broome and Mulberry Streets holding court and was a fixture of the neighborhood. Jimmy Jones was identified by the late 1950s as a button man in the Lucchese family. He was also identified by Joe Valachi in his 1963 Senate hearings testimony as a Lucchese member. Although he was little known to the general public, Jimmy Jones Potenza was very well known as a top burglar and thief in the underworld. He was unique in that he never engaged in the typical mob rackets of gambling, shylocking, and narcotics, but instead, as is clearly evidenced by his police record, specialized in being a trickster or burglar and heist man. His longtime criminal associates included such notorious mafioso as future Bonanno capo Michael Mickey Z. Zaffarano, who was a boyhood friend, Joseph Jojo Vitaco, a Colombo soldier and close buddy, as well as future Colombo acting boss consigliere Joe Iacovelli, among many others. His long criminal record started in 1945 and included arrests for burglary, possession of burglar's tools, vagrancy, felonious assault with a chair, grand larceny, conspiracy, fugitive from justice, forgery and possession of stolen credit cards, and counterfeit credit cards. In 1953, Jimmy Jones was indicted for the theft of stolen securities. In 1955, he served 30 days in the workhouse for an assault. In 1956, he and Colombo soldier Jojo Vitaco were charged with the vicious beating they gave to a guy in Little Italy. In 1959, Potenza was one of 4 hoods arrested by the FBI and indicted for the armed robbery and kidnapping of a JFK Airport employee, then known as Idlewild Airport, and the theft of $93,000 in American Express traveler's checks, for which he was later convicted and received 5 years. Future Bonanno capo and porn kingpin Michael Zaffarano was also part of this case. Jimmy Jones served this sentence at San Pedro Federal Correctional Facility in California and Lewisburg in Pennsylvania. In 1967, Potenza was again indicted by the FBI for preying on JFK Airport, this time as the kingpin among 25 people arrested for a massive theft of $407,000 of American Express traveler's checks. Potenza would sell the blanks to members of the Colombo and Lucchese families for 25% of their face value, and in turn, other mob figures would sell them at 50% of value to pushers who would cash them in at full face value. These securities were cashed in Las Vegas, California, and Puerto Rico, among many other cities. By at least the late 1960s or early 1970s, Jimmy Jones had switched his focus to the credit card industry. He became a top man in the credit card rackets, both in their theft and also counterfeiting them. He specialized in Visa and MasterCard counterfeiting. He obtained a credit card processing machine, allowing him to print and laminate his own cards. He then supplied passers with fake driver's license and backup identification and sent them out to bust out the phony cards at retail stores, restaurants, and electronics shops, buying high-end goods he would later fence. Another ploy was working in tandem with corrupt business owners such as restaurants and nightclubs who would write up fake invoices and split the cash generated from these sales with Potenza and Company. In 1985, Jimmy Jones was arrested with several others in a huge credit card fraud case. At trial, it later came out that one of the key pieces of evidence against Potenza was his propensity for demanding his minions deliver to him daily a brown paper bag with each receipt reflecting each individual purchase for that day. This was done so that Potenza knew they were not cheating him of his fair share of the loot. He instructed his subordinates to place these paper bags inside of a local garbage basket along Broome Street in Little Italy. Once done, Potenza would retrieve the bags and match the receipts against what stolen loot was brought into him daily. This distrust of his associates would prove to be his undoing. At trial, the prosecutors tied Potenza to the credit card ring by showing FBI surveillance films with him retrieving the bags to check their contents. Time and again, Jimmy Jones was seen walking over to the trash bins, reaching inside to pull out the brown paper bag, and then peeking inside at the day's stolen receipts. Just previous to these little jaunts, other ring members had gently placed the bags in the bins, time and again, day in and day out. Vincent Potenza and his men were each convicted and sent away to federal prison. Potenza received 7 years behind bars. Vincent Jimmy Jones Potenza was one of the most notorious and sophisticated burglars that operated within the New York underworld for decades. He simply loved what he did, and what he did was scheme and scam every waking moment of his life. Whether it was a high-end burglary, truck hijacking, armed robbery, or credit card schemes, Jimmy was absolutely in his element while robbing somebody, and never happier. Vincent Jimmy Jones Potenza is believed to have died in 1995. Be sure to check out our video on Potenza's cohort Jojo Fataco in our Mob Fireside Chat library, and visit the Button Guys website at www.thenewyorkmafia.com for more mobster profiles and mafia history. Thank you for watching. Until next time.